Rickon Stark. Rickon is one of the most misunderstood characters in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, particularly because of the fact that nobody really knows why he is important to the story. In the Game of Thrones show, Dan and Dave didn't really understand this either, and so they got rid of Rickon in such an nonsensical and anticlimactic way. I say anticlimactic because in the books, Rickon is still alive, and the plotline that interweaves with his story is actually very intriguing and fascinating in the books. Rickon is not just some afterthought that dies from not being able to zigzag. He is an important character in the story, and will likely come to the center of the narrative in the Winds of Winter. But how? Why is Rickon, of all people, such an important character, and why should anyone care about his storyline? In A Storm of Swords, before the Red Wedding, Robb Stark is worried that he could die in battle without leaving an heir to succeed him. He has no children, and he believes that most of his siblings are dead, so he writes a will in which he expresses his desires. The reader is never told what Robb ends up writing in his will, but the conversation that he has with his mother gives us a lot of clues about the named heir. Remember that by this point of the story, Robb believes that Bran, Rickon, and Arya are dead, and that Sansa can't be trusted since she's married to Tyrion. Therefore, the only sibling that Robb feels should be named is Jon Snow, his half-brother. Of course, Catelyn protests against this, reminding Robb that Jon is a bastard and that he actually has distant cousins that he could name instead. However, Robb states that Jon is of the North, and that as King of the North, he could simply legitimize Jon, thus making his claim more valid in the eyes of the Northerners. The chapter then ends with Robb convincing his lords to view the document and to sign it as witnesses. Of course, later on, Robb is killed in the Red Wedding, betrayed by the Boltons, who then take over the North. However, the Boltons were not present when the will was signed, and them murdering Robb didn't win them any Northern friends. So now, the Northerners plot their revenge. The North remembers. Some fans believe that the Northern Lords are conspiring against the Boltons, buying their time until they can finally cast them aside and reinstall a Stark to be their liege lord. This theory is actually proven in A Dance with Dragons, as we see through Davos's POV chapter when he speaks to Robert Glover and Wyman Manderly. It seems that instead of rallying behind Jon Snow, the Lords of the North are conspiring to reinstall someone else, another Stark of Winterfell. Manderly and Glover learn that Rickon is still alive, and that he is likely hiding out on the island of Skagos. They ask Davos to find him and his wolf, and to bring them back to the north so that the Lords can rally behind them. In the books, Rickon's story therefore becomes a lot more important to the narrative. The books haven't went further than this, and they stop where Lord Manderly employs Davos to find Rickon. However, it's clear that the Northern Lords will possibly crown Rickon as their king. The Northerners still believe in their own independence, and with Tywin dead and Rickon found, they could crown him and govern their own affairs. It already makes for a far more fascinating narrative, especially given the fact that some lords might choose to honor Robb's will. Some lords might decide to honor Robb's words and legitimize Jon Snow, making him their king and rallying behind his cause. Given the fact that Robb likely went through with this idea, it could cause a civil war amongst the Northerners, with some standing behind Rickon and others standing behind Jon. It will be interesting to see how that unfolds in the books. However, regardless of how it plays out, it's quite clear that this plotline will be at the forefront of the books to come, and that Rickon will play a more important role in the future of the story. In fact, he and Shaggydog might even play an important role in fighting the White Walkers. The series of books is called A Song of Ice and Fire because of the two main plot lines that the story is actually about. The fire part of the name refers to Daenerys Targaryen and the birth of her dragons, an important event in the story that hasn't happened in hundreds of years. On the other hand, the ice part is also important because it concerns the White Walkers and everything that's happening in the north. This storyline mostly focuses on the Starks and their role in fighting the reanimated others, but it's also important to note the significance of their direwolves. It's not a coincidence that the direwolves are found, for the first time in 100 years, south of the wall at the same time that the White Walkers are reanimated. It's possible that the direwolves might play a role in helping to fight the White Walkers, perhaps in the same way that Grey Wind was so instrumental in Robb's victories in the south. The most important thing in fighting the White Walkers is unity, and we see how Grey Wind helped to unite Robb's troops, filling them with pride and a sense of loyalty.
They call him the Young Wolf.
And?
They say he rides into battle on the back of a giant direwolf. They say he can turn into a wolf himself when he wants. They say he can't be killed.
In the books, Catelyn says that the wolves were sent by the Northern gods, and that they function as more like guardians for the Stark children. In the story, Ghost helps Jon in his investigations of the White Walkers, and he also helps to fight them in the first book before they attack Lord Mormont. Summer also guides Bran and accompanies him in his journey beyond the wall, and he might even play an important role in the future now that Bran has finally found the One-Eyed Crow. Therefore, the direwolves will be important in the narrative of Ice, and Rickon is a Stark that also has a direwolf. Given the fact that the Northerners are planning to make Rickon their king, it's possible that Rickon could play a role in the future fighting with the others. With his direwolf by his side, he could help to unite the Northerners in the same way that Robb united them when he had his own direwolf by his side. He could therefore be instrumental in fighting the White Walkers. Rickon could even use his own magical warging abilities to do this, because in the books, Bran is not the only Stark that can warg into his direwolf. All of the Stark children have this magical ability. In the books, it's subtly insinuated that even Robb uses these abilities to slip into Grey Wind's skin, and that this helps him to win his victories in the Westerlands. Even Arya is able to use it to slip into Nymeria's skin and hunt with giant packs in the Riverlands. Therefore, it's probably the case that Rickon also has this ability, and that he'll use it in the future to help him fight the others. The inclusion of this magic into the story is doubtless important in fighting the White Walkers. Therefore, Rickon could be important because of these abilities, and how he'll use them in the future to help in the War of Winter. So it's clear that Rickon will be an important character in the future of the story, mainly because of most of the plot lines that are taking place in the North. Rickon is a part of a conspiracy for Stark restoration in the North, and with his direwolf by his side, he could unite the Northerners and help them to fight the White Walkers, using his magical warging abilities to do so. It'll be interesting to see how all of this actually comes into fruition, but it's obvious that Rickon will become a more and more prominent character in the future of the narrative. What do you think about Rickon and the importance of his character? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you like this video, click the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Peace.